Hey everybody, I'm Tim Mooney with the Timothy Mooney Repertory Theater. So today, I'm taking on another of the many famous speeches in Hamlet. While previously we've explored To Be or Not to Be, you can check out that one here, and To Solid Flesh, here. Today we're going to jump ahead to Act 2, Scene 2, Rogue and Peasant Slave. I perform Rogue and Peasant Slave as part of my one-man play, Breakneck Hamlet, which I'll be performing live online Sunday and Monday, March 14th and 15th, 2021 at 8 p.m. Central Time. You can catch it as a pay whatever you want event on Facebook live on Sunday and for just $5 on Zoom on Monday. My goal here is to shine just a little more light on this great speech. And if you get something out of this, please do me a favor and hit that little thumbs up icon or subscribe to this channel for more. So here's I Finally Get Rogue and Peasant Slave. First, just a touch of background, Hamlet has asked the leading player in the itinerant theater troupe that has dropped by Elsinore to recite a speech. And I think it's important and very ironic when you pull back away to do the math on exactly what we're seeing here. The actor has just performed what has clearly been an incredibly impassioned speech about Hecuba. So impassioned that it has left Hamlet somewhat astonished. He has just seen an actor presenting a monologue, amazed at just how moving it is, even though the actor is performing something obscure from the distant and remote mythological past. Oddly enough, we, the audience, are watching an actor performing Hamlet, an ancient character from a distant, somewhat mythological past. This play was first produced over 400 years before our time. That's quite a jump, especially if the performance of this play continues to seem relevant, important, and emotional after all this time, leaving us, likewise, astonished. But even then, back in the early 1600s, Shakespeare was writing a play about a character, Hamlet, who predated his own time by another 500 years plus, to roughly the year 1050, as I would measure it. That's an even longer jump, especially as Shakespeare likewise made this situation seem relevant, important, and emotional after all that time. And yet, the play from which the actor is performing a monologue is itself drawn from a scene as described in the Iliad of Homer. We don't know exactly when Homer was born or died, but most historians trace him back to the 8th century BC. So, from 1050 AD back to roughly 800 BC, that's another 1850 years. But wait, there's more. Homer was writing about an event from his own distant past. Homer was writing about the Trojan War, which is so far back in history we don't actually even know when or if it happened as described. If it did happen, it came from another 300 or 400 years prior to Homer, a period known as the Late Bronze Age. All told, we're looking at a story that reaches back at least 3,000 years prior to now. And as long ago as that was, the actor's craft still enables us to feel it with all the intensity as if we were living it now. And as astonished as Hamlet is, we, watching it now, may be every bit as blown away, engaging in this elaborate math problem from 1200 BC to 1600 AD to today, especially as Hamlet startles us in the middle of the fifth movement of this astonishing soliloquy. I didn't know that this speech had 5 movements when I started out working on it. I just worked away at it, one line at a time. But as I did that, I would notice odd little moments that should have been clear to me from the outset had I paid more attention. These odd moments are defined by incomplete lines. We all pretty much know by now that Shakespeare wrote his verse plays in iambic pentameter, lines which featured 5 sets of iambs. An iamb being formed by an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable, which we generally sound out in a rhythmic pattern such as da-da, 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 da-da. Usually the stressed syllables increase in emphasis in such a way that the 5th stressed syllable, the last in the line, is the strongest of them all. Looking back at this speech in an analytical way, I notice that there are more incomplete lines than I've ever noticed in any soliloquy before. I don't know how I didn't notice these before, but sometimes you just look at a speech from the inside out, and sometimes you look from the outside in. Here's one way of looking at it on the page. You can see that there are 4 short lines, sometimes very short lines, breaking up the script. We usually take that as an indication that there is something going on with Hamlet during those breaks. These breaks may suggest that he's doing something or feeling something or working through an idea. It also suggests a pause, perhaps as long as it might have taken for the actor to recite the other syllables of that line that are not manifested with actual words. But let's take a look at this in a slightly different way. What if each of those partial lines, in one case just a single syllable word, ha, were to distinguish the conclusion of a different movement, like a symphony, say, might have 5 different movements, and each one of those movements takes on a somewhat different tone, level of agitation, or urgency. I thought, how might that look if every single movement had a slightly different color depicting it? How might that suggest a development or an arc to the speech? At the very least, a reset and a new beginning. I found myself tracing my way from blue to green to orange to red. Not all of each movement captured in a single exclusive tone of color, but with a definite sense of progression. But then the 4th section seemed to take me back into the cool tones, only to race back through green and orange and red again, as this 4th movement finds Hamlet scaling the heights of emotion much more quickly now, before settling into a mix of the passionate and the cool, what I'm depicting as purple, as that 5th movement finds Hamlet carving out a plan of action. And here, in that 5th movement, in which we recall Hamlet has been marveling at the actor's ability to jump from the ancient historical, the Bronze Age, into the immediate present, Hamlet does something that will drive that point home with startling immediacy. He talks to the audience. Shakespeare never gives us a stage direction that says that Hamlet talks to the audience, but there are several moments in which that is what Hamlet is clearly intended to do, because this is the moment in which Hamlet reminds us that this is clearly a plot twist about us, an audience, sitting in a play, being confronted with something that is about us, and he forces us to wonder, even for a moment, am I the guilty one in this audience? Will I be struck so to the soul in what I am observing that I might leap from my chair and proclaim my malefactions? Performed truthfully, we can't not question our own guilt, our own self-control, and wonder whether we will pass the test, even as we contemplate spans of time ranging from 400 to over 3,000 years past. Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I! Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, could force his soul so to his own conceit, that from her working all his visage wanned, tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice, and his whole function suiting with forms to his conceit, and all for nothing for Hecuba? What's Hecuba to him, or he to Hecuba, that he should weep for her? What would he do, had he the motive and the cue for passion that I have? He would drown the stage with tears, and cleave the general ear with horrid speech, make mad the guilty, and appall the free, confound the ignorant, and amaze indeed the very faculties of eyes and ears. Yet I, a dull and muddy metalled rascal, peak like John a dreams, unpregnant of my cause, and can say nothing. No, not for a king, upon whose property and most dear life a damned defeat was made. Am I a coward? Who calls me villain, breaks my pate across, plucks off my beard and blows it in my face, tweaks me by the nose, gives me the lie in the throat as deep as to the lungs. Who does me this? Ha! Swoons. I should take it, for it cannot be but I am pigeon-livered and lack gall to make oppression bitter, or ere this I should have fatted all the region kites with this slave's awful, bloody, bawdy villain, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain. Oh, vengeance! My, what an ass am I! This is most brave, that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by heaven and hell, must, like a whore, unpack my heart with words and fall a-cursing, like a very drab, a scullion, fie upon foe, about my brain. I have heard that guilty creatures, sitting in a play, have by the very cunning of the scene been struck so to the soul that presently they have proclaimed their malefactions, for murder, though it have no tongue, will speak with most miraculous organ. I'll have these players play something like the murder of my father before mine uncle. I'll observe his looks, I'll tent him to the quick. If he but blench, I know my course. The spirit that I have seen may be the devil, and the devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape. Yea, and perhaps out of my weakness and my melancholy, as he is very potent with such spirits, abuses me to damn me. I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. And there we have it. That soliloquy is its own little 5-act play, and it takes us from detached, ironic observation to astonishment, anger, and self-resentment, on to rage and self-loathing ranting. And suddenly, in the height of his rage, Hamlet catches himself, almost as if he sees himself in the mirror and cannot help but criticize and mock. And yet it's not his emotional display for which he finds himself at fault, but the manner in which that emotional display has revealed his lack of action. Suddenly, Hamlet sees himself as a character in a play, and the audience as present, listening to him in this very moment, and breaks the fourth wall to bring the audience into his world. This is not the only time that fourth wall is broken. Here's a quick glance at speeches in which, in my opinion, Hamlet distinctly references a community of people outside the scene itself. Act 1, Scene 4. So oft it chances, in particular men, carrying, I say, the stamp of one defect, being nature's livery or fortune's star their virtues else, be they as pure as grace, as infinite as man may undergo, shall in the general censure take corruption from that particular fault. Act 2, Scene 2. What a piece of work is a man! How noble in reason! How infinite in faculty! There are more, but perhaps the most shocking one of all, even as he is dying, Hamlet turns to the audience, name-dropping them as the audience, and reassures them, "You that look pale and tremble at this chance, that are but mutes or audience to this act, had I but time, as this fell sergeant Death is strict in his arrest, oh, I could tell thee, but let it be." We are meant in these moments to sit up out of our chairs as participants, leaping over thousands of years to engage in this play. If you'd like to see this whole speech in the context of the play itself, you can catch it as part of Breakneck Hamlet, this Sunday and Monday, March 14th and 15th at 8 p.m. Central. It's also available for virtual bookings that week at a discount, as is my show, Breakneck Julius Caesar. If you're watching this video after that date, please swing by timmoneyrep.com for all the latest details of the performance schedule, or to book an event for your own school, theater, or conference in person or via the internet. So that's I Finally Get Rogue and Peasant Slave. Hopefully your understanding of this will double your appreciation of this speech and open the door to a better understanding of the full play. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more. I do these explainer videos just about every other week, releasing them in advance of the coming shows. You can go back and see the first one I did on Hamlet here, and more clips and scenes from Breakneck Hamlet here. We've also got a Patreon campaign if you'd like to support this work. We are a not-for-profit institution at patreon.com/TimMooneyRep. We have giveaways of lots of swag, like these books, for instance, and love nothing more than to bring these events to your school or community. And this and lots more goodies can be found at timmoneyrep.com. Thanks for watching. See you on the stage.